The Bay Area deals with the fentanyl crisis. San Francisco is rethinking its sanctuary city policy.
Yeah, one supervisor, in fact, proposing legislation that would exclude undocumented immigrants who are arrested for dealing the powerful drug.
32 people into custody in connection with 2 Honduran drug families that were setting up shop here in the Bay Area and peddling their drugs here in the Tenderloin.
There are, unfortunately, a lot of people who come from a particular country, come from Honduras, and a lot of the people who are dealing drugs happen to be
of that ethnicity.
Guzmán de apellido es Ovidio, su padre de niño le apodó el ratón. Un jefe con mucho cerebro es hijo del Chapo, aquel
There's a hot war raging right now just south of here. You better put down the bong and pay close attention to it. This war is going on in the #1 absolutely most corrupt nation in the entire world right now, Mexico. Not a war in a country halfway around the world, coming in a distant second in corruptibility, that being Ukraine.
And yes, I know it makes you feel really good about yourself to proudly fly the blue and yellow. 'Cause I get it. You see Ukraine as the enemy of your biggest boogeyman. Not Putin. It's Trump.
And I can state with 100% full assurance that that blunt you're smoking, it's a full-on gateway drug.
It's gotta be. What else but severe reefer madness could make people stupid enough to repeatedly vote in the Demo cartel who've brought you waves of coke, crack, smack, meth, and fentanyl? And be advised, oh you oh-so-cultured connoisseurs of Cali-grown cannabis, all the illegal grows and most of the legal ones are run by the Sinaloa cartel. And it's only a matter of time before they start spiking the Mary Jane with fentanyl too. So it's not the fog of war, it's just excess weed haze obscuring your vision. And you need to clear it long enough to see that, yeah, the lead is flying south of the border, but we're taking the true incoming right here on the drug and filth-infested streets of San Francisco. Here at the Civic Center, around the area of 7th Street between Market and Mission, you look around and you might think you'd fallen into a deep crevice gouged out of the sheer walls of the black hole of Calcutta.
Oh, it's actually a little worse than that.
Because at least the abundant despair on display in Calcutta is organic and can be chalked up to 1,000 years of gut-punching poverty. But this one square city block of San Francisco is the physical manifestation of what 50 years of Democrat power has wrought.
I stand at ground zero in what has been a carefully engineered and systematic destruction of a generation.
There are dozens more equally putrid narco ghettos in San Francisco, but this one is particularly egregious because of its proximity to power.
As we stand at 7th and Mission, we look to our left and see that imposing structure there? That is the federal building of San Francisco.
This fortress of federal law enforcement is where Homeland Security, the FBI, the DEA, and countless other agencies of the surveillance state are securely ensconced. And when we look to the right, we gaze in awe at the classic beauty in what is the jewel in the crown of the Marxist left's diabolical lawfare program. That's the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals building. This citadel of high court depravity is firmly planted directly across the street from the federal building. Close inspection of this Stalinist stronghold reveals an uninviting facade that strongly encourages any would-be visitor to just go ahead and GTFO. And who is it that's locked behind these fortified doors? It is the fabled judges of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. These unelected yet infinitely powerful appointees have put up huge numbers in furthering the cause of the socialist left by codifying insanity like sanctuary city laws.
And if you're the ball carrier in one-party San Francisco, you're gonna gain huge yardage if you got these two behemoths blocking for you.
And lurking, and lounging, and dying amidst the sun-splashed plazas of these forbidding monuments is the human product of this sinister conspiracy. Behold the affront to the eyes that is the open-air fentanyl bazaar and prostitution stroll at 7th and Mission. This one particular snake pit, like all the others in the cartel chain, can easily claim hundreds of kills of U.S. citizens every year. And it boasts a constant stream of cash reliably flowing back to the Sinaloa cartel.
And in a wicked bit of irony, some of that cash is going to make its way back to this block in the form of bribes and kickbacks, directed at the brave men and women working in that well-guarded building behind those well-guarded doors.
Does that not sound like the results and spoils of war? This brutally efficient 24/7 drug market is owned by the cartel, but is managed and operated by illegal alien Honduran juveniles. That's right, teenagers recently smuggled over the border and transported north to San Francisco by corrupted, useful idiot nonprofits and NGOs.
Could there be a more clear demonstration of corruption than this spectacle being allowed to take place on this most federalized of city blocks?
These Central American slum-hardened street soldiers are able to effortlessly outsmart not only the hapless local cops, but the big bad G-men of the federal government, under whose nose they casually ply their incredibly profitable trade. So the Sinaloa is digging their business model that's just been humming along swimmingly since January 2021. But as discussed earlier, there's a bit of trouble brewing in cartel land. Yeah, the source of that trouble is a dual government double cross that's got the Sinaloa quite pissed.
They took aim at military aircraft.
Pissed off enough to start a war is how pissed they are.
Forcing those on board to take cover.
And it's about current cartel boss Ovidian Guzman getting taken into custody. By the way, Ovidian El Rotan Guzman is the son of U.S. federal prison inmate Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. But when Biden took office, the cartel went absolutely nuts and cheerfully took Joe up on his invitation to surge the border. And the flow of migrants, human traffickers, hondos, and fentanyl became a gushing torrent. And the skyrocketing death toll reflected it.
And who knows? Maybe even these corrupt feds up in this bitch were embarrassed by what they saw at the border. And right outside their window.
Today's ESG indoctrinated FBI agent isn't at all interested in fighting crimes like the mass murder of Americans committed on behalf of a foreign crime syndicate. Not when the perps are historically marginalized people of color who've been recently trafficked into the country. No, today's modern FBI agent is more than happy to stay glued to his computer terminal all day, snooping on the Facebook posts of pissed-off school board meeting moms. But if and when he's finally compelled to venture forth from the protection of the federal building and wade through the hellscape just outside his door, he's easily able to hold his nose and avert his eyes for the 3 minutes it takes to stroll over to the Twitter building. And it is here where he performs his most critical function. That being the all-out protection of the Democrat Party. So it looks like ancient war horses Feinstein and Pelosi They're finally getting put out to pasture. For those of you who don't believe the Democrat cartel was absolutely in major cahoots with El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel, I got two words for you. Fast and Furious. Yeah, Obama and Eric Holder's scheme to provide military-grade weaponry to El Chapo got Americans killed, and was but one facet of the long, prosperous, and totally corrupt alliance of the Sinaloa and top Democrats. And you'd have to be a damn fool to believe that that cutthroat conspiracy isn't active and thriving right now. Most probably right here in San Francisco's most exclusive neighborhood, Pacific Heights. But it's not all quiet on the El Norte front. 2 kids still die from OD every day on the streets of San Francisco, and Honduran cartel soldiers gain power and territory every day. And they're all protected from prosecution by the ever-so-virtuous voters of San Francisco and their ironclad sanctuary city laws. But you're really okay with all that, aren't you? Because Trump mortally offended you by stating that shithole countries were not sending us their best. So any goddamn thing you do is really okay, as long as it's kneecapping Trump.
Supervisor Matt
But
Dorsey
take heart, my fellow downtrodden citizens of San Francisco. A true hero has come forth to fight this scourge.
I am fighting for the lives of drug addicts and not the livelihoods of drug dealers. I make no apology for it.
Dorsey
And this
supports
brave
the
hero
overtime
has
relief
emerged not from under some right-wing rock, but surprisingly from deep in the bowels of the progressive left. District 6 Supervisor Matt Dorsey has decided to commit political suicide and put forth legislation that would deny sanctuary city protection to adults convicted of fentanyl distribution. We at the Crime Tour have to wonder if Supervisor Matt saw our previous video on the subject and was moved to action. Now, while the Crime Tour is busy patting itself on the back, we can one and all self-congratulate on the glory of the San Francisco voters' unceremonious shit-canning of previous DA Chesa Boudin. Remember him? The Marxist DA you progressives voted in before you voted him out. And to make that repudiation of Soros-driven progressivism even more stunning, his replacement, Brooke Jenkins, is fully on board with Dorsey's stunning proposal to shit-can Sanctuary City. This just into the Crime Tour newsroom. In a stunningly acrobatic flip-flop, DA Brooke Jenkins has now come out strongly condemning Supervisor Matt Dorsey's measure to exempt illegal alien fentanyl dealers from sanctuary protection. Yeah, Jenkins' flip-flop on dumping Sanctuary City was a kick to the groin, and the Crime Tour was betting heavily that Dorsey'd be the first to fold. And full disclosure, Dorsey's proposal is merely a half measure, as it will only affect adult fentanyl dealers and not the legion of juvenile hondo dealers out there making a mockery of the law every day. I think we can all agree that the borders are wide open, and asylum laws, they've been gutted. These hondos behind me, they're here 24/7 slinging fentanyl under the protection of corrupt local and federal governments. You look at the bleak landscape of San Francisco today, and you probably think to yourself, well, that's the way it's always been. It's the old status quo cop-out. Hasn't SF been this way for just a little too long now? Yeah, we've always had a robust Skid Row scene, but now there's at least one thriving addiction ghetto in every district. And even though it's vicious Democrat machine politics that's created this mess, it's the average voter who deep down inside knows something is very wrong in San Francisco, but chooses to exist in a weed-addled yet continually offended state. This is the confiscatorily overtaxed San Francisco voter who agrees that the city is going to shit. But what does he do? He pays his taxes, he takes another toke, and then he votes Dem yet again.
Supervisor Dorsey is seeking to weaken our sanctuary ordinance. We are not going to let him do it. And it punishes people that are already victims of an unjust system.
And just as the crime tour holds the individual voter guilty for the corrupt state of San Francisco, we find that John Q. Citizen is equally at fault for the befouled state of our garbage-strewn streets. And in spite of the rampant corruption in DPW and its preposterous annual budget of $375 million, it is not DPW and their top-level tier of graft-enriched bureaucrats who are besmirching the streets of San Francisco. So we agree that since 2020, fentanyl use and OD deaths have shot up, and illegal border crossings and the blanketing of these drug ghettos with juvenile hondos has coincided with that rise.
And local sanctuary laws and a corrupt and political federal cop authority, they've combined to shelter these street soldiers of the Sinaloa cartel.
But if you were to lay off the intensely powerful cartel-provided cannabis, and you know you've thought about doing that, for just a few days, you'd realize your senses have been deadened to the horrific reality of what you see on these feces-smeared streets every day. And the saddest part is, it's fully sedated your mind's ability to, yes, reimagine what this great city could become again.